Meeting to order. Ask the clerk to follow the roll, please.
Ron Kinsley.
Here.
Ron Buckholz.
Present.
Tom Duffy. John Righeimer.
Here.
Stacy Kessel. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Certification compliance open meeting laws.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Number 5 is the meeting agenda. The agenda is set. Number 6 is public comments. Ms. Linda Zilmer.
Good morning, Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner, resident of the village of Birchwood. I would like to repeat one of my public comments from Finance Committee, and it has to do with the use of outside legal services. It has been a large cost, and I know a couple times the committee has looked at the amount by department, but there are specific areas that are taking a lot of resources in terms of not just money, but time with the county. And the example I want to mention is, as best I can put together the timeline between TJ Duffy and Sheriff Mrotek and Phil Neese and myself, is according to TJ, about 15 years ago when he was corporation counsel, he wrote an animal control ordinance. To the best of Mr. Mrotek's and Mr. Neese's memory, this goes back to about the time Rebecca Roker started, and there was a proposed dog kennel in the town of Bass Lake. Rebecca Roker was first coming on, and the county did basically a total rewrite of the animal control ordinance. And that was under the then Von Briesen firm. This spring, through public safety and then on up through the county board, I understand that it was now the Atolls firm, again, Rebecca Roker, that brought forth an amendment for nuisance animals and nuisance animal owners, which really went through committee and county board without much discussion that it was needed. Now we have a different attorney who is responsible for using his discretion regarding a citation that was written on that ordinance. And the committee has directed him to write an amendment for that ordinance. Now, I think if you have one attorney writing an ordinance and another one deciding whether or not to enforce it and then just be told to rewrite it, that's the kind of thing that I think at least at first the county should go back to the attorney who wrote the ordinances and say, can you limit this to specific animals or not before you rewrite anything? Because if you do any search of municipal ordinances, they address all sorts of animals and do not restrict it from any. The audit report that you just saw, the executive summary, has fund balance information and outstanding debt, but it does not show you the revenues and expenditures. And so in that 94-page report, if in January, each of the committees, and you've got a wonderful resource in Mr. Markren, he could go by committee and show what revenues and expenditures were for 2023. He could estimate where you are ending up 2024 and how it looks for the 2025 budget. Because when the 2025 budget was set, the county board really did not have a picture of where they were and how much money was available to spend. And specifically the Resource Development Fund, I believe those dollars are committed for future year projects and are not available for projects that just came up within the last month. And then maybe if you bear with me one more thing, the ad hoc committee that the county board is considering being created, this is in response to some requests from the towns for better cooperation and collaboration between the county and the towns on zoning matters. And there was a meeting held at the county level, and I don't think that what is being sent to the towns as far as the representation or the purpose of that committee reflects what the towns wanted. So if you create that committee, make sure that it incorporates what the towns have identified of why they want to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody online? Go ahead. Mr. Binding?
Morning, everybody. Steve Biding, 8225N, Blaisdell Lake Road, Town Draper. I kind of glanced at this agenda and I got a lot of questions, right? So we're going to touch on a few of them here. I only got a few minutes, but you know, the lack of a broadband plan is really hurting us, a project plan. You've got roughly 18,000 dwellings, or give or take. The financial analysis is missing. We don't know how heavy the lift is, or to know what a project looks like when it's done. So I guess my ask is you need a project manager on this. This is a huge capital investment. And when we talk about co-signing for a private company's loan against our credit, I have some real big reservations about that. Another item is I thought EDC was going to move forward on emergency communication. That's what they told us last month. That is not happening. So I'm just going to keep banging away at that. And I guess my last thing is a property that's being offered to purchase for a veterans park. As somebody who's dabbled in real estate, and you guys have too, this property is worth the price of the lot less the raising costs, not the price of the loan. That's what Chippewa Valley Bank thinks it's worth. So I think to enter into that negotiation, you really got to say, if you're putting a park there and bulldozing the building's worth nothing. It's actually negative equity because you got to raise it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Number 7, consider approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, November.
I'll move. Will you approve it? I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Rickhammer to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, appoint members of vacant for District 9. Discussion and possible action. I had a Mr. Jim Evans came forward, contacted me. I asked him if we could meet. As of last evening, we had Public Works. We met prior to Public Works. Sounded pretty positive. I received quite a few emails positive about the gentleman. So my recommendation is to appoint him to the full board. Mr. Buckles.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Mr. Evans to the vacancy of District 9 Supervisor and send it on to the county board.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Buckles, second by Mr. Rickhammer to approve the vacancy for Mr. Jim Evans. Any discussion? Yes.
Jim's on the town of Bass Lake, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and he's a former law enforcement, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just was wondering his credentials, so thank you.
He's retired.
I forgot. We got a motion and a second. We'll vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and will go on to the full county board for approval. Thank you. Number 9, Veterans Administrative. Veterans Service Department report. Mr. Elliott.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So for the month of November, we had 408 phone calls, 731 letters, emails, and faxes, and 228 office visits. That's up slightly. If you want to compare it to 2023, it's up slightly from last year, same time. As far as the disability and compensation and pension claims, we submitted 209 disability claims to date and received retroactive payment of $432,640.06 for claims decided in the veterans' favor. That number, 209 disability claims for basically a snapshot on the 1st of December before we started working into that month. For 2023, for a picture of what we're doing, 2023 was basically a record-setting year. I turned that off. Maybe. It was a record-setting year for what we did for work. We had 210 disability claims at the end of 2023, and we're at 209 right now. So we continue to be busy. So let's see what we got here. La Crosse Vet Center, the office co-managed and hosted 2 individual and 2 group counseling sessions for the month of November. And then for outreach, again, we had coffee and conversation with Gary and Nicole, first Wednesday of every month, and that remains active with, especially with our elderly, which is really the focus of what we wanted hit, especially this time of year, to get them out and be seen. I went to the LCO clinic outreach event on the VA healthcare and Medicare benefits. They had 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the afternoon that I supported, and was a panel member to help them select what they needed for Medicare and what VA healthcare benefits could do for them. So, social media, we had 1 new page follower, so we've got 154 total. And we had 89 contact interactions and 83 visits. And also for outreach, I went to the Stone Lake Lions Club for Veterans Day in November. Sorry about that. Our training is up to date. A few months ago, I talked to you about, I called the state, Wisconsin Department of Veteran Affairs about a CVSO, TVSO grant, and questioned how they were going about business. And I did that on a Thursday afternoon or Friday, and Monday morning, the Secretary of Wisconsin Department of Veteran Affairs pulled into our parking lot. I had a conversation with him for about an hour, and I explained to him the issues that I had with the grant, basically, and I asked him why I was being held to a higher standard than as a CVSO than the TVSOs, and I pointed out some errors I thought were errors anyway, and not really. I was being held to a higher standard. So the CVSO grant was just released here 2 days ago from the state, and they significantly changed it. They removed a whole bunch of junk that we had to report on. It was horrible. It did nothing really to show anything, but we were still, gathering numbers for them. The other thing they did is they enforced the state statute as far as being certified or accredited with the VA to work claims, which is the standard that I had a problem with. So you can't do much for veterans, period, if you're not accredited. So they adjusted that too. Really, it was a big win for the state. And I'm quite happy about it. I'm glad they listened. It's hard to tell somebody, sometimes it's hard for somebody to take criticism in a sense, but they took it in the spirit it was given to improve it, not to shame anybody. So anyway, lastly, I wanted to say thank you for recognizing Mr. Betcher, and thank you for recognizing our office with the flag and the certificate. I greatly appreciate it. We're gonna get it put into a box of some sort and hang it on our wall. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. So doing this for, I guess, over 10 years now, I can see how other counties and their service offices operate, are organized, and I'm thankful for what I have. So thank you.
We thank you, Gary, for what you Nicole, and for the veterans. Appreciate it.
No. Any questions?
Wreaths Around America.
Wreaths Around America. Pardon? Wreaths Across America, yes. So that's something, I looked into that last year. It's something the cemeteries need to request, and it's a huge, it's not free, right? It's not free. I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
I was just are you gonna tell them where it's at?
On the website?
No, it's Saturday at 11 o'clock at the State Cemetery by Spooner is our local one. And then Sunday at the Greenwood Cemetery, they're putting out wreaths donated by Dave Green at 1 o'clock.
Right, but
So, okay.
but that's not Wreaths Across America though.
Saturday is.
Yeah,
Sunday
Saturday
is
is, but the
not,
Greenwood is not, yeah. Yeah, and I'm quite sure the state had to to go to that website. It's not a, yeah, I don't know, you know what I mean? How much money you want to lay forward. If there's an idea or suggestion on doing that. What would you like, sir? I guess,
Just looking for information regarding it.
okay. Yeah, I didn't look into it again this year, but I know when I did look into it, it was like, I forget how much it was a wreath.
It's $17 a wreath.
Yeah,
This year, it's new that they're going to be having the event outside, not inside, because they ran out of capacity inside at the state building. So they're doing it. So they request that you be there at 10:15 to lay a wreath. And then, so 10:15, if you're laying a wreath that you donated, you have to donate it online. Civil Air Patrol, our local Hayward and Spooner Civil Air Patrol is assisting with that. So Joel Capero is who you would contact at the state cemetery.
yeah. Are you, sir, are you really looking to like our local cemeteries?
Well, I know they're having it in Russ County at Bruce Cemetery. I just want to know if they're having anything here, and that pretty much answered the questions.
Yeah, no, not with that program,
Okay.
not with that program. So it's a lot of money, really. I mean, when you think about, I guess if that's a problem, which I think it is, but I'd have to look at how many veterans that we have buried in the county. It's significant. It would be a significant amount of money.
That's fine. And you have coffee every Wednesday at 9?
The first Wednesday of every month.
First Wednesday.
Yep. So
Where is that?
it's at the Oasis building at our Veteran Service Office. Yep. Yep. It is. So, and it's just good. It's just, it's wholesome to get the people out there. And if somebody shows up that's usually a frequent flyer, they usually get a phone call checking on them. And that's really, like I said, when COVID was here, it was bad. And after that, it was hard getting people out, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy. So trying to get, more of our elderly in, that can come in and sit down and learn about stuff. We've got some big changes right now. VA, they have a My Healthy Vet account where veterans can go in, basically send a message to their primary care team going, hey, I'm not feeling good, or I need my prescriptions refilled for the following year, updated. And that's been very helpful for people at home that are computer savvy, that can go in and do that. The VA has changed it. They had 3 or 4 different ways to gain access to My Healthy Vet. Well, the VA has slimmed it down to 1. So as of 1 January, we're going to be busy trying to get people reset on accounts, because of course they want a photo ID for that. And it takes some time. Nicole broke it. She says about 20 minutes per person. So that's sucking up a lot of daylight. But we're going to start working through that. And then VA ID cards, Minneapolis VA Medical Center ID card section went, and evidently they went through their books to see how many people, where their IDs and who was expired. Well, there was a boatload of people that had VA ID cards that were expired. And so they sent letters out and postcard. Well, the veterans that got it, most like our elderly, again, because that's the majority of our veterans, got it, and it said your VA ID card's expired, and they took it just like if their Medicare card was expired. They don't have Medicare anymore is what was in their mind, right? But the VA ID card being expired has nothing to do with, it's not going to stop their healthcare benefits. And, it's kind of like, and the ID section doesn't like me saying this, but it's kind of like having a pledge pin. It's nice to have to show that you're, a veteran and you're enrolled in VA healthcare, but it's not mandatory. It's not needed to get those healthcare benefits. But that caused a big stir. But unfortunately, the only way to get an ID card is either drive to Rice Lake to set up an appointment there, or drive all the way to Minneapolis to go in and get to that ID section. So I asked the Rice Lake clinic manager, I said, look, they're backed up. As soon as that come out, they went, now they're July. I wouldn't be surprised if their ID card appointments are in August of next year for people that are expired. So I said, you need to double up. If this is that important to Minneapolis, you need to double up your time for IDs in Rice Lake. But other than that, and, really, I wish they would have put on the postcard, this does not negatively affect your healthcare benefits. However, we would like you to update your VA ID card. So it's just crazy. Silly things like that, but.
I get compliments all the time how well our office is down here in Hayward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Oh, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Same to you. Thank you.
Number 10, 15785 US Highway 63 property purchase offer, purchase discussions, possible action. Mr. Alvarado.
At last month's committee meeting and then at the county board, the board approved entering into a letter of intent for purchase of the property at 15785 US Highway 63. That was approved by the board and directed the administration to proceed with the letter of intent. The letter of intent was to be replaced by a definitive agreement. So we had had the attorney draft a commercial offer to purchase, which is in the agenda packet, that is considered the definitive agreement, which lays out the purchase terms, allocation of costs as far as closing costs, how back taxes are paid, and reaffirms the purchase price. So that was drafted. I submitted that to the seller. The seller has signed off on that and returned it to us. It is contingent upon, will have to be returned before the board meeting, but it's contingent on the county board approving the definitive agreement, which is the offer to purchase. There is a resolution. Rather than just having a motion again, I drafted a resolution that you replace this. You have in front of you. That approves the offer to purchase, basically says that we've entered into the letter of intent with Sean and Kara Carlson. The letter of intent was to be replaced by a definitive formal agreement, the definitive agreement. The board directed the administration to take the necessary steps to reach the definitive agreement. And the definitive agreement is based off of the details that were in the letter of intent. The offer to purchase becomes the formal agreement and is attached to will be attached to the resolution for the board meeting. Seller has signed and returned the offer to purchase. And the offer to purchase is conditioned upon final approval by the Board of Supervisors. Now there be it for it resolved as the board does hereby approve the offer to purchase with Sean and Kara Carlson, directs the administrator to complete the purchase as detailed in the offer to purchase. And then that the board approves extension of the closing date beyond the December 30th, 2024 date, included in the offer to purchase upon mutual agreement with the seller. I included that because in the letter of intent, and there in the offer to purchase, it has a December 30th, 2024 date. But and I've talked to the seller about extending this into after the first of the year. Verbally, he said that would be fine. We just don't believe that we'll be able to close it before December 30th, because once the board approves it on the 19th, you have to have the title work done and the closing docs. And we're probably looking at a date into January to do that. So that's why that it further resolved is included, to have the flexibility to do that. The other issue with pushing the closing date into January is that when we did this at last month's meetings, we amended the 25 budget to move money from the Resource Development Fund to Veterans Honor Park Fund. And so the money to purchase is actually in the 25 budget.
Question? Yes, Mr. Buckles.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I make a motion to deny this letter of intent to purchase property on 15785 US Highway 63.
Okay. I have a motion to deny. Ms. Hessel.
I have no comment.
Mr. Duffy.
I move to second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Buckle, second by Mr. Duffy to deny the purchase of Highway 63. Discussion.
Does so I guess, does anybody have a different location that they're, I mean, because we did approve the concept of a spot to honor our veterans. So do you have a different location that anybody could recommend?
I do not, and I'm not against helping the veterans, and I believe we can do something else for them with the 250,000 other than buy the Dairy Queen. Like I say, I'm not against it. I'm just against purchasing that at this time.
So I guess I'm going to put facts over feelings and just state that that location is the busiest traveled, the longest stoplight, and is a big eyesore. So where I struggle is trying to come up with, there's another location next to the Veterans Service Office that's $200,000. So Mr. Carlson approached saying, this, I think, because it caps the Veterans Service Office, the Veterans Center. So we have to think of like, where's the spot going to be that we can do the MOU that makes the most sense for keep caring for the location that we pick? Where is the highest traffic? Because you want it to be seen. So can we put a QR code on there so that they can then, if people are walking, not necessarily do they have to drive to that spot. There won't be taps played. There's not going to be, it's kind of like that one in my mind anyway, like in cable. And I know that there's a lot of people that have their opinion on what's going to happen, but it's thought out, like where do we put it so that the MOU, because our county doesn't need to maintain it, but the veterans, I was on the Veterans Association for 7 years, and there's not a prime spot further away that then it can be maintained. So I'm just trying to understand the direction of the board on finding a spot, but then also looking at long-term. That's what we're supposed to do. So long-term, who maintains this location? We can't have it far because then there's nobody available to do it. We don't want to put the onus on our maintenance staff. So, what does it look like? Maybe a small section like the one in cable where you have, regardless, I don't think we're going to find a spot that's going to be more highly trafficked. So I don't know. I realize that this public opinion, we push it through. We're not being responsible, but nobody comes up with ideas to say, hey, how can we better our community? Not just sit here on the board and rubber stamp stuff, so to speak. But I'm just trying to try to understand bringing ideas to us, but then not having ideas back. If you don't like an idea, how do we discuss it and how do we get to the next idea? But to say that so in your opinion, it's not the ideal place, but where is the ideal place that we can have it be visible, easy maintenance, easy to raise and lower the flags, because you could do the MOU with the Veterans Service Center, Community Service Center. That is where all of our veterans, like the American Legion, the VFW, all of those entities, the veterans of the Vietnam War, they all are housed in that building. That's where they meet. So that's where I was trying to figure out, like, wouldn't it make the most sense? And I received tons of emails. I'm not making any money off of this. I'm getting pummeled publicly, but I'm not making, I'm just saying, like, where is the cheaper location? Where is a better visible location? Then that would serve the purpose of putting a tribute. Not a grandiose park, like people are saying, well, this isn't enough space, but it would be able to maintain a bigger space? No, I don't think that our maintenance department could. So I'm just trying to help me understand. I know that you're against it because you don't think that lot is, but shame on the city for not doing anything to improve. Like, that building should be condemned and tore down. Shame on the city for not doing it, but don't naysay me or pummel me publicly just because I'm trying to find a way to better our community, support our veterans with a tribute location. And that's all I'm trying to do. It's with a good heart, with facts on my side. I don't know where a better place could be. I honestly don't. That we could afford the lot plus do the due diligence of maintaining it in the future.
Mr. Duffy.
I don't think our job is to help beautify Hayward. I mean, that's not the county's job. It certainly isn't the veterans' job. I don't know how long anyone's been looking for a lot, but I just think in the last year, some lots that have been sold, the Brooks Building, for example, sold for $50,000. Beautiful building and a huge lot. And over by Miller's Market, they've had vacant lots that have been sold just within the last 6 months. I mean, there have been big parcels that have been available. I mean, and I haven't looked at the market to see what else is available, but it's a postage stamp. The parking is limited. And if you only want a place for flags, go where the fountain is and put all the flags you want, and it's free. We already own it. So I think it's a poor investment. And I support Ron's motion.
Well, I would like to request that you abstain because your son and daughter-in-law put in a request to purchase that lot.
So I guess the point has been on the market for how many
It
years?
hasn't been, it has not been for sale.
That's not true.
Well, he had it on the market and then he did not have it on the market because it's full of moss.
Yeah.
So
The point is, it's not a good buy. It's not a good purchase. And there is limited parking. You have to admit there's limited parking. We just want to have something that's visible. We can drive by and salute. We want to have a piece of property that you can use and enjoy and occupy and have some cars that can park there.
We do want a lot that people can see. I, for one, I'm speaking for myself, parking or not, I would never park. I mean, I don't go to the one that I just found out was down on the reservation, which is even in the counties. I'm not driving over there. I don't know if people are driving over there, parking, putting up a plaid blanket and having a picnic. It's just not happening. I think the ideal spot here is because of the visibility, but my main point or question, I guess, is it's almost two separate things. Do we or do we not want a memorial? Maybe we don't. If we do want the memorial, I think it goes back to where we're going to put it. Nobody has answers for it. Yes, it's not our job to purify Hayward, but it is an eyesore. It does give you that visibility. Where else on 63 are you going to get that type of property? You're saying you can get much less on 63 and you think that would appear within the next, how long?
I don't think our job has been to look for what's available. I haven't looked for what's available, but I think there are parcels.
So there's not an urgency to have a memorial for the veterans, I
And
guess.
the old Kinnaman School is where the existing memorial is out there, and they do use that building there.
but we've already voted on the concept, so we're not voting on the
Right.
concept, we're just voting on the purchase.
Welcome to another comment.
Yeah, I do. I guess, like I say, I'm not against helping and doing something for the veterans. And I just can't express this enough, that this is not the place that we want to buy. So why can't we get along maybe and try to help out on LCO and get in with them with some of this $250,000 to have the county/LCO Memorial Park?
They already
It's not
have-
county land.
That's federal land.
Yeah. But maybe somebody should reach out to them and see.
But that park already exists.
That's fine. That's his comments and that's.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I don't think we've made an exhaustive look for what else is available. This piece is available. Okay, is that the only choice?
That's.
I don't think so.
That's fine. Ms. Hessel, you have more? Mr. Duffy, you have?
No,
more?
I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. You have anything else you want to add? Okay, we're going to vote. And the motion is to deny. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? So the motion fails. Where do we go from here? Ms. Hessel?
I make a motion to approve the sale of the commercial offer at 15785 US Highway 63.
Okay, The motion by Ms. Hessel to approve the sale. Second by Mr. Righeimer. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. So it goes to the full board. So now the full board can act upon it.
Don't you vote though?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
I voted for it.
Oh, okay. I guess I
Okay.
did catch that part.
That's fine. That's all right. So 3-2, then it's approved to go to the full board. The full board will have it on the agenda and we'll hash it out again. Okay? That's fine. That's the way it is. All right. Number 11, Informational Technology Department report, IT, Mr. Colson.
Good morning. Let's see. Wait till Lynn could get my report online, otherwise I can share it.
Right,
Here's the
yes, and then I can go back. Okay, great.
Well,
All right. Thank you.
But that's-
So we had 45 requests come in. We completed a little more than that. So we're keeping busy with service requests. But the only thing that just came in recently was a request to track tourist rooming house applications and permits in our land records tax and assessment system in NOAA. So that's something we're going to try to be able to do by spring. I'll be working with human services, public health, and zoning to get that in place during the next few months or so. And I'm sure they'll give updates on the status of that. Other than that, let's see. Oh, our application forms automation with payment processing. We took a little turn here. We were going to go with a payment processor that would impose back-end fees onto the county. But we thought, well, let's try to use our existing payment processor where there's just front-end fees that the public would pay, which is what we would like to see happen, because that's what we're doing now. So that seems promising so far, but hopefully we'll have an update on that by next month, and possibly, if things go well, it'd be implemented by then. That's about all I had, unless there's any questions.
Mike, can I ask you a question regarding, last night we had Public Works, and Mr. Pino mentioned about people paying for driveway permits. Would that be related to what you were talking about earlier?
It's exactly the same project, yes.
Okay.
We went through some testing, and so it's just a matter now of making sure we get our payment processing integrated where the public can put in their credit card or checking account information. So he's anxious to get started with it as soon as possible. So hopefully it will be soon.
Thank you. Have a nice Christmas.
Thank you too.
Number 12, Human Resource Report. Ms. Rose LaRue.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Have my report. The only thing I have to add is we are recruiting for a highway driver operator, and we've received a lot of applications for it, so kind of nice. We interviewed for a maintenance person, a very nice young man, and so we'll probably be making an offer for him this afternoon.
How many have you got presently for highway? Can you share the number? I know I talked to John.
Oh, gosh.
He had 10 at the time.
Yeah, I think it's probably closer to 15 now.
That's good.
Applicants?
Mhm.
Oh, wow, that's great.
I know, before it used to be 100, but then we went down to 2. Now
Yeah.
we're going back up. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose.
Yes.
Rose, just to follow up, I think, are we full staffed in, like, jailers were good, dispatch? And then we've filled the last open deputy position or in process. Yeah, so we're good shape in the, right.
Number 13, County Clerk Department Report.
Sure, you've got a very brief election update there. We've now been reconciled for the November election, and the 3 municipalities that were required to complete a machine audit have done that, and we are in good standing there. We've applied for access for Liz to get into our WisVote system now. What we're seeing is that more and more we're getting municipalities that are requiring us to do their election software work, meaning they become reliers. When I started, I think I had 8, and I'm now up to 13. And we might have more in 2025. Some of them might transition into their own provider eventually, but there's still a lot of turnover out there in the municipal town clerk's positions. So it's taking up a lot of work. The next request activity remains steady. We've hired a person for the elected officials deputy who originally was Lisa's position, and that's Laura Bruce, and she's catching on really quickly. So she's going to be filling in really well as Liz moves into my position in 20 days or so. The new agenda software is in place, as you well know. I'm wondering if you want me to do any kind of 3-minute demonstration at the board meeting, or do you think that's for everybody? Okay. It doesn't take long, as you saw already, so I'll do that. The only part we do not like, as I mentioned, was the fact that we struggle to identify revisions in this new software. It's not a quick and easy process. So hopefully they will take heart on our request to make that happen. But we've been told to put it in the queue, so we'll see. We've been assisting the Land, Water, and Forest Committee staff and zoning in the Callahan and Mud Lake district application, so that's taken up some of our time as well. And the new plat books should be starting to arrive next week. We've had lots of inquiries on those. I did put on here a year-end summary that's pretty brief because I won't be here in January. I know Andy asked our department heads to be prepared to do that in January, so mine's coming in December for you guys now. Our department is pretty much automated on everything. You can get you can apply for your cutting permit online. We finish it off here in the office. Same with marriage license. Marriage licenses, people still have to come to the counter because we have to verify that their documentation is there and they have to sign in person. So those 2 are the only things that pretty much cannot be completed online. The dog licensing is on there. Plat book orders can be done online. So we're pretty much automated to the extent that we feel that we can be.
Who did the plat books this year?
Mapping Solutions again.
Are they the same price?
They'll be the same price.
Okay.
Yep. The paper's a little thinner that I saw in the proofing copy, but the rest looks good. And the photo is taken by Brian DeVries, so we've got a local photo on there on the front cover. I mentioned the elections already, that you're going to probably see more work on our end for WisVote, meaning all the back end entries for elections, monitoring voter activity, registering them in the software, et cetera. So that'll take up some of Liz's time unless she can convert and convince somebody to convert to a provider state. But one of the problems, and I'm hoping that you, as those of you who are on town boards, could help in your municipalities, we're seeing many of those municipalities not have printers, scanners, the right equipment to do anything. I'm getting scans from phones, and that should not be taking place. And, an EDR over a phone from somebody's camera should not be happening. It should come from a scanner. It's difficult. The images are not clear. And number one, they should not have those carried around on their phones. And I don't know if they delete them. So encourage your town boards to invest in a $300 printer scanner, if at all possible, and make sure they have internet connections, because those are the 2 things keeping a lot of people from being accurate in the elections.
Is Town of Meadowbrook one of them?
They're a relier, yes. Rely on us to do the work. And some of those clerks are totally capable of doing it from what I've seen in some of their activities. But some of the others that don't have this equipment, we really struggle in accuracy.
Lynn, so the reliers, ultimately, is it the county that's responsible to get it done right and
To
we're
enter
just-
the activity, yes.
it depends on the activity. So if a municipality can't or won't do something, they're not on the hook for anything.
As far as the running of the election, they're on the hook. I do not run their elections. I cannot advise them how
Okay.
to man their stations for poll workers. They
Okay.
do all of that. They make all those decisions. But if something is entered wrong in the system, yes, as a relier, we enter it.
So if they enter something wrong, it's your responsibility.
On the forms, and yes, we do get a lot of forms that are not correct. So we're entering right off the forms, and then we find out that maybe the birth dates don't match, or the driver's licenses don't match down the road, so.
And this has gotten worse over time?
I would say it's getting a little bit better, but it's still not easy.
And when you say relier, that means, what does that mean
They
again?
rely on us to do the work. Providers provide their own entries.
And we can't charge them for?
We do.
Well, we do charge them dollars, so we get compensated.
Yep, we
As a
have
relier.
MOUs with all of them. They can choose, and I just sent out an email this week to let me know, are you going to remain as a relier, or do you want to become your own provider and save your municipality some money?
And last question, I guess, this is the bigger picture. It would take state legislation to yank out all responsibility from municipalities on elections and put it on the sole.
Absolutely, it would have to be a statewide.
And that's something like, what do you think about that? And what would other counties think of that?
I think we'd get some definite flack from municipalities from taking that back to us. I don't think they would like that at all.
if
I'm
they
not sure
can't do
about
the
town
job?
boards. Maybe they would prefer, maybe town board would prefer having that, leave that office of activity. I don't know.
I just, a question, and I remember this brought up at the meeting, at our town board meeting, that it was asked if the clerk wanted to pay the county to do their stuff.
I think what might be referenced is that if they can hire an elected elections official rather than having the clerk do some of that. I think one of the municipalities did, Clarence Fraze or somebody hired somebody who did nothing but elections.
So I guess my next question is, Lynn, then, what happens, why can't the county just say, no, we're not gonna do it for the townships, you're on your own?
Some counties do. I know of one county clerk that said 3 strikes, you've got 3 chances to get your election returns good and if accurate when they come in, and if you don't, you're going to be your own provider. And they just demanded it.
The elections are a mess, and we hear a lot of rhetoric on election integrity. I mean,
Yeah.
and when you really, just a little one eye I've looked at it, it's a giant mess. I mean, and
Oh, yes.
and you know, the city of Milwaukee and these other big, that's a whole different animal than these small rural communities, which are just incapable, disinterested to run it like it should be run. And I think is this something we bring up at WEC? Do we contact Romaine Quinn, Chance Green? I mean, nobody wants to deal with it because, but I mean, it's just such a simple, it's administration stuff. And we're worried about Dominion, which is a non-issue in my opinion. When these are nuts and bolts things, it's run Mickey Mouse, and it's sickening to see. And there doesn't seem to be any, I don't know if there's any other counties talking about that way or frustrated as I appear to be right now.
I can tell you there is not consistency. In fact, I had one of our local community members want to be involved in the canvassing at the county level, which is fine, and we did. And that person keeps trying to send us back to this Wisconsin Elections Commission's suggested guideline book. It's a suggested guideline. She wants us to follow those steps. Many of those steps don't even apply to us, and I emailed back the process and why. The guideline book doesn't even take into account, for in most cases, the fact that we're all using electronic equipment now. So every county does it different. Every municipality does it different.
what's changed over time is that the closeness of our elections, maybe not local. I mean, if one candidate's winning 60, 70%, I mean, a lot of mistakes can happen. It just doesn't matter. But these things are ripe for challenges when you get close elections. Fortunately, this wasn't that close this last time, but I know there was a major concern on either side. And it seems to me like it should be an easy fix, but maybe it's not, so I don't know.
It went better than everybody thought.
Well, no, right, but I'm saying easy fix from what I'm frustrated about, that it was just a matter of, I don't want to throw more work at the counties, but this is a profession, the counties do it, they have people dedicated to it, and you get these small towns like, are they here? When are they here? This one's interim. It's just, it just seems to be, I'm not even down on the municipalities. I can understand why it's
Right.
difficult for them, right? I
It is-
feel
it's
bad
very
for them.
difficult.
I feel bad for them. It's not, it doesn't seem to be right that they should have to have that type of responsibility.
And in summary on this topic, I would say that we have 3 manuals. The administration manual is this thick. And we find errors in that process, in that book all the time. And I think Sawyer County is now on a first name basis at the Wisconsin Elections Commissions, and they see our calls come in and they say, oh, what's happening now? We found many errors in the books, but it takes years, or sometimes an occasional one will get done right away in the next revision, but before they correct it. So all these clerks are going by these wrong instructions as well. So we see inconsistencies with how WEC gives us guidance and how it's realistically supposed to be applied in statute. We've found many errors between the statutes and WEC as well.
I'm glad that Sawyer County clerks help out the townships because they need the help. Thank you.
And they appreciate the help.
Yes.
Some of them, but I'm not sure
Yes.
about all.
And they're all very good to work with. And the last part I would just want to emphasize is I've got a little tiny section up there on department functionality. Everybody knows we moved into the new space this year. We originally moved, and we're excited to move because we thought we'd have some more privacy to work with some of our functions. As you know, the county clerk should have a closed office available to take phone calls because we're working with social security numbers, with elections and all that stuff, driver's license over the phones and everything else. But we still do not have anything that's private in our office. And I know we put in a request to maintenance to try to get a door built where I'm sitting in my little cubicle there. I don't know if they keep forgetting it or losing it, but there's no talk of getting us some privacy. And I think that office will really need it in the
We'll talk to
future.
administration about that.
Awesome. And that's my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you for all you do, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 14, ad hoc committee, Mr. Alvarado.
I'm gonna be brief because Jay's on and I think you can explain it more, but request of zoning committee to form an ad hoc committee to address the zoning ordinance specific to multi-dwelling developments and potential other things. Jay, do you want to jump in? I don't see the resolution within the agenda. Do you want to pull that up or you want me to pull it up? Be. Pull it up.
Is Jay connected?
I guess I will just blow this up a little bit. So I guess the origins of this in part is back in September. We had a meeting with town board chairs to discuss some of the issues. They had asked to discuss some of the issues with the zoning process, and one of the things that came out of that that we had talked to them about is how to approach future amendments to the zoning ordinance. They'd like to have involvement with that, so we proposed creating an ad hoc committee that would have town representatives on it to work on amendments to the zoning ordinance. The one that's been pursued and turned down at the town level, but continues to be some issue with conflicts in the ordinances regarding multi-dwelling developments. And so met with the chair. Chair has the ability to recommend an ad hoc committee to the county board. This resolution that's been drafted outlines that the desire to address conflicts within the existing zoning ordinance pertaining to multi-dwelling developments. Ad hoc committee will focus on identifying, analyzing, and recommending necessary amendments to the zoning ordinance to eliminate inconsistencies and ensure clear, coherent guidelines for development. So therefore be it resolved that the ad hoc committee be called the Multi-Dwelling Development Committee to be formed to create a balanced framework that supports sustainable growth, meets housing demands, and aligns with the town's and county's vision while ensuring legal clarity and compliance with regulatory standards. The ad hoc committee's work will be time-bound, and upon resolution of the conflicts, it will submit its recommendations for adoption by the appropriate governing body. Be it further resolved that the Surrey County Board may add or delete committee members from the tentative list provided and attached as Exhibit A. And so I believe these are the names. This is I did not have an update for this week from Jay. This is the update from last week of a communication was sent to the towns asking them to designate a town representative to be on the ad hoc committee. So that's the initial list that's been provided. So I believe the chair is sharing this with you to send it to the county board with the contingency that we're going to be adding names right up till the board meeting, because some town boards, either we haven't received their information or they don't meet yet before they'll have met before the board meeting, but we don't have the names as of now.
You read them, I can't.
The names we have so far are Robert Langham, Sand Lake, Mike Bando, Lenrut, Steve Binding, Draper, Jim Strandlin, Round Lake, Laura Rusk, Hunter, Sarah Delaney, Spider Lake.
And did you tell Jay that I would sit in on them, but I would be a non-voting member? Did you talk to him about that?
No, I have not.
Okay. He can hear me well.
Well, we did talk briefly, Andy and I did about that, but not about non-voting.
Right.
But if you to be there, we can accommodate that.
Yeah,
And when I went to that town board's chair meeting at the Hunter, and everybody suggested, I told them, I thought that no zoning member should be on that committee. Well, they decided that maybe one should sit in the meeting and be a non-voting member, and that would be me, and I'm okay with that. So I just sit in and take notes and listen to different stuff, but I wouldn't vote on any. So,
and just to round out, so when this came up at the zoning committee, my comment to them was that perhaps best practice would be to not have any county zoning committee members be on the ad hoc, because some of our county zoning committee members, or some of our county board members, are also on town boards. But it's, there's no problem with that happening. It just means that we have to make sure we notice the meetings properly, that there might be a quorum of the zoning committee present for these ad hoc committee meetings. So town boards can appoint whoever they want. It's more of a legal matter, and making sure that we don't violate any open meetings laws.
If I may, Jay's gonna continue to receive, we thought, through today or tomorrow, to put people on the committee, and then if it's approved here, it'll go to the full county board.
you need a motion? I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the ad hoc committee.
I'll second that.
With names to come,
Yeah.
continue, I guess.
Continue with names to come to be added.
It'll go to the full board.
I will second that.
So motion by Mr. Buckle, second by Ms. Sessom to approve. Any discussion? Mr. Duff, you got something? You good? Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So again, that'll be on the full county board. And we should have all the names by that time for the towns to respond. Thank you. Number 15, County Administrators Report.
All right, a lot of work right now is just wrapping up the year and implementing things out of the 25 budget that's been approved, lining up CIP purchases and implementing any the new fees. Tourist Rooming House was updated HHS committee board Tuesday night on the they're putting together the information to start educating existing tourist rooming house owners and anybody new coming in will fall under the new ordinance as far as the occupancy, 2 per bedroom plus 2.
Stop your sharing.
Oh. I stopped it there, sorry. So that's ongoing. You've heard about the Lake District formation. It's been a fair amount of work, just working with the committee. Because Mr. Sorowski resigned from the board, we were down to 3 members of the Land, Water, Forestry Committee. I discussed with the chair that, about postponing the next meeting because that, and 2 reasons. One is that we couldn't have anybody else miss and not have a quorum of the meeting. And also with the Lake District formation, that's going to be a item continuing into January to get whoever is appointed up to speed. So we did postpone that meeting and it's rescheduled for Friday, December 20th after the zoning committee because there was some crossover on members that would already be here. So we'll continue with that process. But it's, the committee that directed some updates to the report that's been prepared for the board. So you'll see that at the county board in January. Like the clerk has said, it's been a considerable amount of time going through this process, learning about Lake District formations. We've met with UW Stevens Point. They provide a lot of the education statewide for this. We talked to the DNR just to get background information. There are potentially other lake districts that could be pursued in the county. We have found out that there's at least one other lake that has formed a committee and is researching it. So we're trying to learn and be as thorough as we can with this first one so that if this comes along in the future, we are better prepared for it. Ambulance, you've seen some of the finance committee, the financials. We've had some requests, as you're aware, from the town around Lake area for improved ambulance service in that regard, in that area, with the offer of a spot for a permanent base. So now with some other projects put to bed, we've been spending time this month on pulling together that information and communicated with them about setting up a meeting after the first of the year. We did receive official communication from the town boards of Round Lake, Hunter, Spider Lake, and the town of Hayward about improved ambulance service and establishment of a full-time base in that area, in addition to a number of citizen comments. So those were shared with the Public Safety Committee, but we'll be having a meeting after the first of the year to hear their concerns and share as much information as we are able to pull together by that time. Broadband, the Economic Development and Extension Committee did get the first request for endorsement for a provider that is pursuing BEAD funding. Mosaic Technologies did present at Monday's meeting, and the committee did approve sending an endorsement resolution to the board for Mosaic. We do anticipate at least one more company coming in January for an endorsement to pursue BEAD funding. CJCC TAD grant for 2025 was awarded. We received the paperwork this week. It was approved a couple of weeks ago. Essentially funded at the same level as it has been in the past. So that'll continue on with our treatment court and diversion programs. Human Services has been very successful in obtaining grant funds to address youth justice issues, primarily truancy. I believe they've received 3 grants now for, I think it's almost $400,000 to implement similar programs for youth, for truancy, trying to address issues up front, but also essentially I think would amount to a youth diversion program to give them a chance to, give the youth a chance to rehabilitate or get on a better path. The Public Safety Network, the Economic Development UW Extension Committee did have a virtual conversation with Bug Tussle about starting that conversation again to potentially use the Bug Tussle, tower sites, if they were to come in and establish cell phone towers, broadband ring, fiber loop, to put the public safety communication equipment on their tower sites rather than other alternatives. There is opportunity to restart that discussion. There was really no details brought up, except that we're going to arrange a joint meeting of public safety and the Economic Development UW Extension Committee with Bug Tussle, hopefully within the next month before next month's committee meetings to get moving on that. We know there's priority to get the public safety network upgrades done as soon as possible. So that's moving ahead. Hear a little bit from the clerk, also going through where we can help on the elected official transition. It's good. I think we've got a deputy register of deeds already in place that'll be appointed by the new register of deeds. Transition is well along in the clerk's office with new county clerk Liz Klein already working there and then having the new deputy in place. We have both deputies in place in the treasurer's office and Brian Lehner, the new treasurer. We've lined him up with the State Treasurer Association, getting him a county email address. And he's communicating with current treasurer Janine on getting some opportunities to see how the office operates. State budget process is underway. The governor is going to be in Ashland tonight unveiling his. On our end, WCA is already putting their position papers together on things they'd like to see in the budget. We have what they call the CAP team for WCA. In January, we'll be lobbying legislators. Mental health is probably our number one priority again for WCA and for us within the budget to see increased reimbursements for the crisis program and CSP program. I think Lynn mentioned this as well. We had a department head meeting last week, making a push with departments. I think for the most part, they do a pretty good job on a month-to-month basis, sharing what's happening with their committee, their oversight committees on what they're doing. Ask them to expand that. In addition, some departments provide you what they've done this month, but I think it'd be helpful for them to give you a little more context as to how does that impact their year-to-date performance and how is that relevant to prior years? Are we seeing increased traffic from the public, permits, cases? So just a little more context there. If you ever have any, feel like you're not getting adequate information in the departments, please let me know. In addition to monthly reports, they're all expected to give their committees at least a year-end or annual report summarizing the prior year, and then a little bit look forward on what their goals are and what the priorities are in the department. So just trying to improve the information available and anticipating some exercises we'll be doing next year as far as improving the budget process and planning. And then, yeah, you've heard a little bit from IT. We prioritized putting as many services within the website. So now we're getting into online permitting and applications and payments. And then the other thing that's going to be a big project, and Mike kind of grazed over it, but if you weren't aware, we've had multiple domain addresses within the county. You have a SuraCountyGov.org address. The Sheriff's Department has a separate domain. Human Services has their own domain. We really, for security and just being able to have one domain throughout the organization, so we have shared calendars and shared emails. We'll be switching to suracounty.wi.gov over the next year. Your current email, you'll be kept up to speed on this, but your current email will work for a period of time, but we're going to be getting everybody onto one domain. So that should make things a little bit, should improve communication amongst staff and departments as well.
Sure.
Andy, on the Lake Districts, when is, a couple of things, when is that going to come to a head, do you think, as far as a vote?
So the public hearing was held in November. So within 90 days, there has to be a report to the county board. So that it will be in January to meet the 90-day. And then within 6 months, there has to be a decision made by the county board.
Okay, so
I expect, though, that it's going to be either January or February. It'll be.
but is a board, and that's with Forest, that's with,
Say it again?
that's with the Forest and Land?
The Land Water Forestry Committee is the committee that held the public hearing. They will submit a report to the board as well as something along the lines of findings of fact and probably a recommendation to the board.
And then the board has to approve or not approve, and then if, is each Lake District thereafter separate, or you approve one, you approve them all?
Nope, you approve one at a time.
It's just, but it'll be a harder case.
And if the county approves it, then the county is responsible to appoint the first board of commissioners. I believe it's commissioners.
Right.
There's a outline of who the first board is made up of as far as town board, county board.
So it's adding an extra layer of government is what it
It
is.
essentially creates another municipality, municipal entity.
And then, so are we confident in the numbers? And before you even answer that, numbers meaning who wants this within that Lake District? Because to me, it's an easy decision to say, if you want to tax yourself, do whatever you want. I mean, if 100 out of 100 say, yes, tax me more, go for it. But the challenge for me comes in if, if there's some of those folks, I know it's the 51% threshold and all that, but you have folks that say, well, I don't want to be taxed more. I don't see this as a value. How do we ensure we have confidence in those numbers or?
I'm not sure if I can specifically say, what I can tell you is that part of it's on the petitioners. They outline their district. And there's advisement that comes from the statute.
When you say they outlined it, who outlined that?
It's whoever organized the petition.
They decided how they want to create their tax base.
Yes, they have the ability, when they submit the petition, whoever the organizers are, they have to submit a district.
So somebody could be on that list that says, I don't see myself as part of this.
Correct.
Okay.
So there is statutes tell you, and the advisement from the UW educators that work with this, talk about including riparian owners, people in the watershed, or properties that are in the watershed, or properties that benefit from the presence of a lake. So they have advisement, but there is no hard and fast, like this person has to be in.
This line or that line
Right.
there.
So they set the district though, then they have to, whoever's petitioning has to go out and get the signatures from the people within, or the parcel owners within that district. There is a statutory as to, if you are, and I don't get too many details, but, if you are a trust, if the parcel is owned by a trust or an LLC, it's one signature. If you and your wife own the parcel and you are both listed on the tax roll, that's two signatures. We have properties, I believe, like were owned by a family, and it was passed to the children, and each of the children are named.
So that list is, so as you're describing it, I have less and less confidence in that list as being what the people want, let alone do we know who are residents and who are not? But all taxpayers, right? But I mean, how many of them are residents versus?
Well, only thing I can tell you we know is that we know that what their address is within the district, and we know where their tax bill is sent.
Okay.
We have those
Right.
addresses, but where they claim residency, that's.
Right. And then lastly, is this, I mean, on the surface, it looks to be an issue that would affect housing, but I mean, is this an area of, are these all luxury lake homes where it's not really a issue on housing, or are we just, because if it's not, are we adding a more tax burden on an already fragile housing situation?
I don't think I can touch that one. I mean, I don't know the nature of the houses out there. All the.
Does that make sense? I mean, in theory, it does. I mean, whether or not it's reality, I don't know.
Right.
Am I allowed to add anything or should I wait?
No, you can.
I live on the lake.
Okay.
And if we don't have a means, in this case, for one of the projects to fix that dam, I'm going to be living in a swamp instead. And I can tell you for sure, my house is nowhere near a mansion, nor are any of the 5 other family members that have houses in this district.
Your house would be flooded if?
No, not flooded. I'd go from living on a lake to living on a swamp because the water we would not have water anymore. So our property values will go down even more than, and we are not luxury homes.
This is part of the conversation we verified with the DNR this week, is that the DNR has no owner of record for that dam.
Right, that's the problem. It looks like it was many, many years ago, get a case of beer and bring a tire and some wood and try to dam this thing up,
Potentially, yeah.
which maybe is the solution this time. I don't know. To me, it's very interesting. I think it's a tough, it's adding more government, adding more taxes, and that's a tough one, but I get it. There's a lot.
So what you're saying is essentially correct. It is creating a municipal entity that does have the ability to have a budget, levy the parcels within the district. Every year they'd have to certify a levy just like a city or village school district does. They give that to the county that gets levied on the parcels within the district to generate them revenue they can take on debt.
They do a lot of things down the road. So the intention's a dam and the unintended consequences are 10, 20 years. And how many other folks are lined up, Round Lakes Roundup for this, and who else is getting
Round Lake
ready?
is the one that we know of that has a committee formed. I don't know who the other ones are, if there are any.
So I would imagine it's going to be something possibly throughout the whole county.
Could be. I think what we found is like statewide, there's half a dozen-ish, maybe less, that are created every year.
Yeah.
So we've been referred to some of them just to understand what their process was and how they went through it. I think there's 400 statewide. It might be high end. But there's
And if, and all these places have probably lake associations right now, but they're not taxing bodies.
right.
So if these lake associations wanted to fundraise by whatever means, maybe they were thinking of doing that and then they created this. I don't know. Right? I mean, they could do that.
Yeah, that appears to be, I don't know, they could fundraise. That appears to be the progression that a lot of lake districts were, well, either they were lake associations or they were sanitary districts prior to that, prior to become petition for a lake district.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nothing for me, no.
Future agenda items? Board appointment committee updates? Correspondence reports? Only one left. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, folks. We'll see you Thursday night.